The air in Mr. Abeo's dimly lit office hung heavy with a scent of aged leather and polished oak, a stark contrast to the sterile hospital room where Harold had taken his last breath just 2 weeks ago. Evelyn, Evie, Thorne sat rigidly in a high-backed chair, her calloused hands folded in her lap, hands that had once rebuilt engines and welded chassis, now trembling slightly from grief and anticipation. At 72, she still carried the fire of her engineering days, her silver hair pulled into a practical bun, her sharp blue eyes scanning the room. Across from her, Mr. Abeo, Harold's trusted lawyer, adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, his dark skin etched with lines of quiet wisdom. He cleared his throat, the sound echoing like a gavel. "Mrs. Thorne, thank you for coming. We're waiting on Cashin and Lila." Evie nodded, her mind drifting to Harold's final words, whispered in the dim light of their bedroom. "Evie, my love, I've taken care of everything. The estate, the garage, it's yours. Promise me you'll keep the stallion roaring." She'd promised, tears streaming, as his hand went limp in hers. The door burst open, admitting Cashin first, a tall, sharp-featured man in his 30s, his tailored suit screaming Silicon Valley success. His dark hair was slicked back, eyes hidden behind designer sunglasses he didn't bother removing. Behind him trailed Lila, barely 25, her blonde curls bouncing as she scrolled through her phone, clad in a trendy crop top and jeans that screamed influencer. "Sorry we're late," Cashin said without a hint of apology, sliding into a seat. Traffic from the airport was a nightmare. Lila plopped down, popping her gum. "Yeah, and I had to post about the flight. #grieving but glamorous." Mr. Abeo ignored the flippancy, unfolding the will with deliberate slowness. Harold Thorne's last will and testament. "To my beloved wife, Evelyn, I leave my undying love and the memories we've built." He paused, and Evie's heart swelled, then shattered as he continued. "The entirety of the Thorne estate, including the house, lands, and garage with its vintage car collection, I bequeath to my grandchildren, Cashin and Lila Thorne, as secondary beneficiaries in light of our daughter's passing." Evie's world tilted. "What? There must be a mistake," Harold promised. Cashin leaned forward, a predatory smile curling his lips. "Grandpa was old, Grandma. Maybe he changed his mind. Business is business." Lila giggled, typing furiously. "This is gold for my storytime vid. The will that shocked us all." Evie clutched the armrests, her engineering mind racing for a flaw in this blueprint of betrayal. But the words were ironclad, sealed in ink. Back at the Thorne estate, the sprawling Victorian house loomed like a ghost under the overcast sky, its attached garage a sanctuary of grease and glory where Harold and Evie had spent decades restoring classics. Evie wandered the halls, fingers tracing photos of their life, her in overalls under a hood, Harold beaming beside her. The doorbell shattered the silence. Cashin and Lila strode in like conquerors, trailed by a team of appraisers in crisp uniforms. "Time to get this show on the road," Cashin announced, clipboard in hand. "We've got a buyer lined up, a collector, who wants the whole lot for parts. Quick flip, big bucks." Evie's stomach nodded. The collection? Harold poured his soul into those cars. The stallion alone. Lila waved her off, filming with her phone. "Chill, Aunt Evie. It's just old metal. We're modernizing. Think NFTs of the cars or something." Evie blocked their path to the garage. "This was our life, not some auction block. Harold promised me." Cashin sighed dramatically. "Promises aren't legal, Grandma. The will is. Now, step aside, or we'll have to involve security." As the appraisers swarmed the garage, Evie overheard Cashin on his phone. "Yeah, the stallion's the crown jewel, could fetch millions. Strip it for parts, maximize profit." Lila chimed in, laughing. "Grandpa was such a hoarder. This'll fund my next collab." Evie's fists clenched. The lie wasn't just in the will. It was in their eyes. No grief, only greed. Sunlight filtered through the garage's dusty windows, illuminating rows of gleaming vintage beauties. Corvettes, Mustangs, and at the center, the 1965 Shelby GT350, the Stallion. Its midnight blue paint flawless, chrome winking like stars. Evie stood beside it, hand on the hood, remembering the nights she and Harold had tuned its engine, her expertise as a mechanic blending with his passion. Lila sauntered in, phone aloft, live streaming to her thousands of followers. "Hey, fam. Check out this dusty old relic from my grandpa's collection. It's like ancient. Who even drives these anymore?" Evie's voice sharpened. "That relic is a masterpiece. I helped build that engine myself. Custom cams, forged pistons. It's worth more than your entire wardrobe of filters and fakes." Lila rolled her eyes, zooming in. "Whatever, Grandma. It's just a piece of junk. We're selling it to this guy who wants to chop it up for parts. Easy money. Comment below if you'd buy a piece of history or not. #vintage vibes." Comments flooded her screen. "Sell it. Grandma's salty, LOL." Cashin joined, smirking. "See? The market agrees. You're too sentimental, Evie. Time to let go." Evie turned away, fury bubbling. They saw scrap. She saw legacy. And deep down, she knew its true value. Millions hidden in plain sight. Twilight cloaked the estate as Evie sat in the kitchen, nursing a cold cup of tea. Footsteps echoed, Cashin and Lila, faces set like stone. "Pack your bags, Grandma," Cashin said, sliding a document across the table. "You've got 24 hours. Sign this settlement, $50,000, and we're square. You're too old to manage this place anyway." Evie's eyes widened. "Too old? I ran this garage when you were in diapers. This is my home." Lila crossed her arms. "Home? It's an asset, Aunt Evie. We're flipping it. Sign, or we'll drag you out." The paper blurred through tears, a paltry sum for a lifetime. "Harold built this with me. You can't." Cashin leaned in, voice low and menacing. "We can and we will. Grandpa's gone. Deal with it." As they left, Evie whispered to the empty room, "Not without a fight." The next morning, Evie awoke to pounding on her door. Cashin and Lila stood there, a cheap suitcase at their feet, packed with mismatched clothes, none of her tools or mementos. "Time's up," Cashin growled, grabbing her arm. They frog-marched her to Cashin's sleek Tesla, shoving her inside. Lila drove, music blaring, as they sped toward a rundown motel on the town's edge. At the curb, Cashin tossed the suitcase out. "Here's your new home. Don't come back." Lila smirked through the window. "Bye, Grandma. #fresh start." As the car peeled away, Evie stood alone, rain beginning to fall. But in her pocket, she felt the weight of the hidden metal box from her toolbox, the one they'd overlooked. Inside, the bill of sale. Her secret weapon. She straightened, eyes fierce. This wasn't the end. It was the ignition. Rain pelted the cracked window of the motel room, its neon sign flickering outside like a dying heartbeat. Evelyn, Evie, Thorne sat on the lumpy bed, the cheap suitcase Cashin and Lila had packed for her unopened at her feet. Her silver hair was damp, her blue eyes steely despite the ache in her chest. She was 72, but her hands, scarred from decades as a mechanic, were steady as she clutched a small, rusted metal box she'd slipped into her coat before being dragged from the Thorne estate. Inside the box, buried among old receipts and a faded photo of her and Harold under the hood of the 1965 Shelby GT350, the Stallion, was a folded document. Evie's fingers trembled as she unfolded it, the paper crisp despite its age. The bill of sale. Her secret weapon. She could still hear Harold's voice, decades ago, chuckling as he handed it to her. "Evie, my love, this car's yours. $1, paid in full with your heart." She'd laughed then, thinking it a romantic gesture. Now it was her lifeline. She glanced at the motel's peeling wallpaper, the irony sharp. Cashin and Lila had scoured the estate safe, the bank accounts, the deeds, but they'd never thought to check her old toolbox in the garage corner. Fools. They'd underestimated the woman who'd rebuilt engines when women were barely allowed near a wrench. Evie tucked the document back into the box, her resolve hardening like forged steel. Morning light barely penetrated the motel's grimy curtains as Evie sat at the wobbly desk, the bill of sale spread before her. The words were clear. 1965 Shelby GT 350, sold to Evelyn Thorne for $1, October 12, 1970. Harold's signature was bold, notarized, airtight. The stallion, worth millions to collectors, wasn't part of the estate. It was hers, legally, undeniably. Cashin and Lila's plan to sell the car collection hinged on the stallion's value. Without it, their deal would crumble. Evie's mind raced, her engineer's logic mapping the path ahead. The collection's appraisal included the stallion as its centerpiece. Remove it, and the buyer, a vulture who wanted to strip the cars for parts, would balk. She could freeze their greedy empire with a single piece of paper. She stood, pacing the cramped room, her boots scuffing the worn carpet. "You thought you could erase me," she whispered, imagining Cashin's smug grin, Lila's dismissive giggle. "But I'm the one who built that engine." The stallion wasn't just a car, it was her and Harold's legacy, every bolt tightened by their hands. She wouldn't let it be dismantled. Evie fished a crumpled business card from her coat pocket. Abeo and Associates, Legal Services. Mr. Abeo had been Harold's friend and lawyer for decades, a man of quiet strength who'd always admired Evie's grit. She dialed his number, her heart pounding as the line rang. Abeo came his calm, deep voice. "It's Evie Thorne," she said, voice steady despite her nerves. "They took everything, Mr. Abeo. The estate, the garage, Harold's cars. But I've got something they didn't expect." She explained the bill of sale, her eviction, and Cashin and Lila's plan to gut the collection. Abeo listened silently, then said, "Mrs. Thorne, you've got a cannon in that paper. The stallion's title defect could halt the entire sale. Meet me at my office tomorrow. We'll make them regret underestimating you." Evie smiled for the first time in days. "I'm not just a widow, Mr. Abeo. I'm a mechanic. I know how to break things and fix them." He chuckled. "Harold always said you were the real horsepower in that marriage. I'll take your case contingency basis. Let's bring the fight to them." The next day, Evie sat in Mr. Abeo's office, the bill of sale on his polished desk. He leaned back, glasses perched on his nose, reading the document with a lawyer's precision. "This is gold, Evie," he said, tapping the paper. "The stallion's title is in your name, not the estate's. The buyer's contract assumes the collection's full value, including the Shelby. Without it, the deal's appraisal is void. They can't sell a single car until this is resolved." Evie leaned forward, her engineer's mind clicking. "So we stall them. Force them to renegotiate or lose the buyer." Abeo nodded, a glint in his eye. "Exactly. I'll file an injunction today, claiming your ownership of the stallion creates a title-related defect. It'll freeze the sale and give us leverage. Cashin and Lila will have to deal with you directly." Evie's lips curved into a wry smile. "They thought I was too old to fight. Let's see how they handle a woman who knows every nut and bolt of that car." Abeo laughed, already drafting the paperwork. "You're not just fighting for the car, Evie. You're fighting for Harold's legacy and yours." That evening, Evie sat in the motel, sipping bitter coffee, when her phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Asterisk and Evie. "What did you do? The buyer's pulling out. We need to talk. This is not what Dad would have wanted. Asterisk." Evie snorted, picturing Lila's perfectly manicured nails typing in a frenzy. She imagined Cashin pacing his sleek office, his tech bro empire wobbling. Another text followed from Cashin. Asterisk Grandma, let's be reasonable. Meet us tomorrow. We can work this out. Asterisk. She didn't respond. Instead, she pulled out the photo from the metal box, her and Harold, young and grease-stained, grinning beside the stallion's gleaming hood. "They think they can guilt me," she murmured, tracing Harold's face. "But they don't know what we built." Evie set the photo down and dialed Mr. Abeo. "They're panicking," she said. Lila's texting, Cashin's begging. "What's next?" Abeo's voice was calm but firm. "We hold the line. They'll try to buy you off or intimidate you. Stay sharp, Evie. You've got the upper hand." She hung up, her gaze falling on the bill of sale. The rain outside had stopped, and the neon sign glowed steady now. Evie felt a spark ignite in her chest, the same fire she'd felt decades ago, tuning engines with Harold. Cashin and Lila had driven her to the curb, but she was about to drive right back, with the stallion's roar leading the way. The Thorne estate loomed under a bruised autumn sky, its Victorian gables casting long shadows across the manicured lawn. Evie Thorne stood at the iron gates, her silver hair glinting like polished steel, the rusted metal box containing the stallion's bill of sale tucked under her arm. Beside her, Mr. Abeo adjusted his tie, his dark eyes calm but resolute. "Ready, Mrs. Thorne?" he asked. "Ready to take back what's mine," Evie replied, her voice steady despite the pulse hammering in her throat. The gates creaked open, and Cashin met them on the gravel drive, his tailored suit rumpled, sunglasses gone, revealing bloodshot eyes. "Grandma, what's this nonsense?" he snapped, waving a copy of Abeo's injunction. "You're delaying our sale for some old paper?" Mr. Abeo stepped forward, handing him a certified copy of the bill of sale. "This old paper proves Evelyn owns the 1965 Shelby GT 350 outright. It's not part of the estate. Your buyer's contract is invalid without it." Cashin's jaw tightened, but Evie spoke, her voice cutting like a torque wrench. "You thought you could sell my life's work, Cashin. You forgot who built that engine." Lila appeared at the door, phone in hand, but her usual smirk faltered. "And Evie, you're making this a whole thing. Just sign it over, and we'll cut you in." Evie's blue eyes locked on hers. "I'm here to inspect my property. Step aside, or we'll see you in court." Cashin hesitated, then moved, muttering, "This isn't over." Evie strode past, the garage calling her home. The garage smelled of oil and memory, its concrete floor stained with decades of Evie and Harold's labor. The stallion sat at the center, its midnight blue curves gleaming under fluorescent lights. Evie ran her hand along its hood, feeling the pulse of every late night she'd spent tuning its engine, Harold's laughter echoing in her mind. The other cars, Corvettes, Mustangs, stood like silent witnesses, but the stallion was her soul. She popped the hood, checking the custom cams and forged pistons she'd crafted with Harold. "Still perfect," she murmured, grabbing a rag to polish the chrome. Hours passed as she worked, losing herself in the ritual, until the car shone like a jewel. Cashin stormed in, Lila trailing, filming as always. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "You can't just waltz in here." Evie didn't look up, tightening a bolt. "It's my car, Cashin. I'm making sure it's ready for its next chapter." Lila scoffed, zooming in. "Dramatic much? It's just a car, Grandma." Evie straightened, holding up a folded note. "This is for you." She placed it on the stallion's seat. Asterisk, you can sell the garage, but you can't sell the engine. Evie, asterisk. Cashin's face reddened. "You're sabotaging us." "No," Evie said, closing the hood with a definitive thud. "I'm saving what matters." The next day, Evie met Cashin and Lila at a sterile conference room in Mr. Abeo's office. Cashin slid a new contract across the table, his voice oily. "We're reasonable people, Grandma. Half the house's value, $500,000, and we drop all claims to the stallion. Sign and we're done." Evie leaned back, her calloused hands folded. $500,000 for my home. My life's work? You drove me to a motel, Cashin. You called me too old. Where's the apology? Lila rolled her eyes, typing on her phone. Ugh, you're so stuck in the past. Move on already. Evie's gaze hardened. You mocked Harold's legacy, Lila. You called the stallion junk. You don't get to rewrite the story now. Cashin leaned forward, voice low. Take the deal, or we'll bury you in legal fees. You're a retired mechanic, not a lawyer. Mr. Abeo interjected, his tone icy. And you're a tech bro, not a strategist. The injunction stands. Your buyer's already wavering. Push us, and you'll lose everything. Evie stood, the bill of sale in her hand. I don't want her money. I want what's mine. She walked out, leaving their offer on the table like scrap metal. Evie found refuge at Maria's diner, a cozy spot on the town's edge where she and Harold used to share coffee after late garage nights. Maria, a wiry woman in her 50s with a warm smile and grease-stained apron, poured Evie a steaming mug. "Heard about the injunction," Maria said, sliding into the booth. "You're giving those kids hell." Evie sipped, the warmth grounding her. "They took everything, Maria. But I've got the stallion's title. And I'm not done." Maria leaned closer, her voice low. "Harold came here before he passed. Told me he worried Cashin and Lila would sell the collection for quick cash. Said you were the only one who'd protect it." Evie's eyes stung. "He never told me. He knew you'd fight," Maria said, squeezing her hand. "He left a letter with me, too. Said to give it to you if things went south." She handed Evie a sealed envelope, Harold's handwriting scrawled across it. "For Evie, my engine." Inside, Harold's words were a bomb. Asterisk, "Keep the stallion running, love. It's our heart. The kids don't understand, but you do." Asterisk, Evie clutched the letter, her resolve stealing. Maria grinned. "What's the plan, Evie?" "Something bigger than revenge," Evie said, a spark in her eyes. The town square buzzed as Evie stood on a makeshift stage, the stallion parked beside her, gleaming under the noon sun. Locals gathered, drawn by Maria's flyers promising a Thorne legacy reveal. Cashin and Lila lurked at the crowd's edge, faces sour. Evie gripped a megaphone, her voice clear. "This car isn't just metal. It's my life with Harold. I built its engine, every cam, every piston. It's worth millions, but I'm not selling. Not to collectors, not to my family." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lila's phone dropped to her side, her live stream forgotten. Cashin whispered furiously, but Evie continued. "The stallion stays with me, to honor Harold and teach the next generation what passion and hard work mean." A young mechanic in the crowd shouted, "You built that? Teach me." Others cheered, chanting Evie's name. Maria, beside her, grinned. "You've got a movement, Evie." Evie looked at Cashin and Lila, her voice firm. "You wanted profit. I want legacy. This car's mine, and so is the fight." As the crowd roared, Evie felt Harold's spirit beside her, the stallion's engine ready to roar again. The town square thrummed with life, strings of lights twinkling above as the scent of grilled hot dogs and cotton candy wafted from food stalls. Evie Thorne stood beside the stallion, its midnight blue paint gleaming under the evening sky, a crowd buzzing around her. Maria, the diner owner, had organized a charity raffle, a ride in the legendary car, with proceeds funding a local youth center. Evie's silver hair glowed under the lights, her calloused hands steady as she handed out raffle tickets, her blue eyes alive with purpose. A teenage girl, grease smudged on her cheek, approached shyly. "Mrs. Thorne, is it true you built this engine? I'm taking auto shop, but my teacher says girls don't belong under hoods." Evie knelt, meeting her gaze. "I built this with my husband, bolt by bolt. Don't let anyone tell you where you belong. Want to see the engine?" The girl's eyes widened as Evie popped the hood, explaining the custom cams with the patience of a mentor. The crowd grew, locals snapping photos, whispering about Evie's stand against her family. Maria leaned in, grinning. "You're not just raising money, Evie. You're starting something." Across the square, Lila lurked, filming for her followers, but her usual smirk was gone, replaced by a scowl. Cashin stood beside her, arms crossed, watching the stallion draw adoration. Evie caught their eyes and smiled, not with malice, but with triumph. "This is what Harold wanted," she murmured to herself, handing the girl a wrench. "A legacy that runs." The next morning, Evie sat at Maria's diner, the letter from Harold open before her. Asterisk, "Keep the stallion running, love. It's our heart." Asterisk, she'd read it a dozen times, each word fueling her plan. Maria slid into the booth, coffee in hand. "So, what's next, Evie? You've got the town talking." Evie tapped the table, her engineer's mind clicking. "I'm not selling the stallion, Maria. I'm using it to build something permanent. A non-profit workshop, Thorne Legacy Workshop, to train young mechanics, especially kids who can't afford tech schools. Classic cars, modern skills. Harold's dream, my execution. Maria whistled. That's big. The land next to the estate's for sale, isn't it? You could set up there, right in Cashin and Lila's faces. Evie grinned, a spark in her eyes.
Exactly.
I'll fund it with the stallion's value. Loans against it, not a sale. It'll be a living tribute. Later, at a town hall meeting, Evie stood before a packed room, the stallion parked outside like a sentinel. This car's worth millions, she said, voice clear. But it's worth more as a symbol. The Thorne Legacy Workshop will teach kids to build, not break. I'm staking everything on it. The room erupted in applause. A young man called out, "Can I sign up?" Others joined, hands raised. Cashin and Lila, in the back, exchanged uneasy glances. Evie's legacy was taking shape, and they couldn't touch it. Mr. Abeo's office was a fortress of calm, sunlight streaming through tall windows as Evie sat across from him, the bill of sale on his desk. "It's over, Evie," he said, sliding a court document toward her. Cashin and Lila's lawsuit to contest the stallion's title collapsed. The judge ruled the bill of sale is ironclad. The workshop trust is untouchable. Evie exhaled, relief washing over her. They thought they could bully me out. Abeo chuckled, adjusting his glasses. They didn't count on a mechanic with a lawyer's mind. The trust's land purchase is finalized, right next to their half of the estate. They'll see your workshop every day. Evie imagined Cashin's fury, Lila's pout. Good. Let them stew. Abeo leaned forward. You've done more than win, Evie. You've built something that'll outlast them. Harold would be proud. She nodded, clutching the photo of her and Harold by the stallion. He's with me, every step. Outside, she saw Lila's latest post on her phone. Asterisk, family drama over a car? So last season. Hashtag moving on. Asterisk, the comments were brutal. Asterisk, you tried to scam your aunt. Asterisk, asterisk, Evie's a legend. Asterisk, Evie smiled. The world was watching, and her truth was winning. The Thorne estate stood quiet, its sale to a developer finalized. Evie walked its halls one last time, her boots echoing on the hardwood. She paused at the garage, now empty except for the stallion, which she'd moved to a temporary lot. Memories flooded her. Harold's laugh, the clink of tools, their hands brushing as they worked. She didn't cry, she'd done enough of that. Instead, she felt pride. Cashin and Lila had gotten their half of the inheritance, but their buyer had slashed the offer without the stallion, leaving them with less than they dreamed. Their reputations, tarnished by Lila's own live streams, followed them like exhaust fumes. Evie, though, was free. She stepped outside, the developer's sign already up. Across the street, the new workshop's foundation was being poured. Evie whispered, "We did it, Harold." Then she climbed into the stallion, its engine roaring to life, and drove away, the past in her rear view, the future wide open. The Thorne Legacy Workshop's grand opening was a celebration, the lot packed with locals, young mechanics, and vintage car enthusiasts. The stallion sat at the entrance, its hood up, kids peering at the engine Evie had built. Evie, in a crisp denim shirt, stood at the podium, her voice strong. This workshop isn't just about cars. It's about building futures like Harold and I built the Shelby. Everyone's welcome, especially those told they don't belong. The crowd cheered, cameras flashing. The teenage girl from the raffle, now an apprentice, handed Evie a wrench. "You're my hero, Mrs. Thorne." Evie grinned, tossing her the keys. "Take her for a spin someday, kid." As the ribbon was cut, Evie drove the stallion through the workshop's doors, the engine's roar anthem of victory. Cashin and Lila were nowhere in sight. Their influence faded, their greed outshone. Evie parked, surrounded by students eager to learn. She looked at the stallion, then at the photo of Harold tucked in her pocket. "This is our victory lap," she whispered, and stepped into her legacy, the engine of her life still roaring.
The end.